you're already in the hands of Jesus. All you have to do is just keep your eyes on him, place him in the middle of every question. Things will fall into place because we are under his will and under his guidance. That gives me a lot of comfort. We're being called to make a lot of scary, hard decisions, like all at once, but we're not doing it alone.
What's up, alumni? Welcome to After 4, your podcast for navigating life after graduation. As always, I'm John Steele, and with me, once again, is a very special guest, Selah. Hey, Selah.
Hi.
Welcome back. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me again.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for coming back to have a similar conversation to the one that we had before, but different topic. But it's nice to be able to do a little recap together here. Let's see here. I guess, Selah, by way of maybe helping alumni get to know you and also transitioning us into our actual conversation here, I have a question for you, and it's about big questions. That's what we're talking about today. But I would love to know, and I have one or two that are on my mind as well that I can share. But when you think about your first year of life after graduation, which was not that long ago, what's like one or two big questions that you felt like really came up and that maybe were the most challenging or mentally, emotionally consuming questions that you spent time working through?
Whoa. There were a lot.
Okay.
Definitely a lot.
Yeah.
But I think questions about my career and career / stability were
okay.
That was big. And I would probably have to say like community. Big questions about community, because college is community, and then you're just thrown out into the middle of nowhere of life. So those two, probably the biggest questions of like, God, who is my community now? Who are you going to give me? Because I don't know what's out here. And God, how am I going to survive? And what job am I going to have? And how am I going to be like paying rent? And what am I going to do for work? What honors you in my work and also provide. So, career and community.
Career and community, definitely. That makes a lot of sense, and that sounds very familiar to a number of conversations we've had over the years on this podcast. Career and community, big things that we think about. It's funny that we can spend so much time studying a particular area, and then even if we have a job that's in that field, that we just jump into it, and we can almost immediately start wondering, like, oh shoot, did I just waste all of my time? Am I even going to like this? And how often we don't necessarily feel like we're stepping confidently into the field that we just spent years learning about. And yeah, it's a big move going from the classroom into the boardroom or whatever that movement looks like for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man. As I think about a couple of big questions I was asking, I like legitimately asked a lot in my first year in particular, will I always be this lonely? Like, that's something that I wondered about, being super far away from home. Like, I've probably told this before on the podcast, but like, I would come back to my apartment, I would turn on the TV, not because I was going to sit and watch it, but just so that I could hear other human voices when I was at my apartment. And I legitimately wrote on a piece of paper, "You are not alone," and stuck it on my TV, because it's like a 1-bedroom apartment. The TV was right in the middle of it, so I would see it very frequently, and just like trying to in some ways convince myself that I wasn't alone, even though it was a very lonely season. And then, a year and a half or 2 years later, I got a roommate, and it was not a great situation. And I started asking the question, will I ever get to be lonely again? The grass is always
gold.
The grass is always greener. Oh, man. Yes. Yeah. That was probably one of the biggest questions that I remember asking. And then a bunch of times asking, why am I here? That's another, just because, you move someplace and you think like, all right, this is what I'm here to do. And sometimes one by one, those things start to disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with that one.
Yes. Yes.
I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, like, God, why did you bring me here again? Because I'm starting to lose sight of any of those reasons. Yes. And that's just reality for some of us. That's the way it goes. So, yeah. So Selah, as you know, we've just recently wrapped up a series that's all about big questions that we think alumni are asking, or that we would encourage them to be asking if they aren't already. And
they were awesome
joined
us, by the way.
Oh,
awesome
good.
Questions.
Okay, I'm glad. I am really glad to hear that. I felt like it seemed like they made sense, and based on some other conversations we've had in the past. But I'm glad to hear that directly from somebody in our target market that they were good. And Selah, as we said before, you joined us at the end of our previous series to sort of talk through like, okay, what was this like, and what things stood out to you, and so. Let's do it again. So Selah, for you, as you think back over our episodes, we had like 9 or 10 different topics that we covered, I think. So it's a lot. We don't need to touch on all of them. But what are a couple? Are there a couple of those big questions that stood out to you that you're like, oh, this really hit home, or this really made a lot of sense, or helped me think about this in a new way? Yeah. What stood out to you?
Yes, definitely. There were 2 that were like, yep, these were questions that God was like, listen. That one. Listen to that one.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there were a few that I was like, oh, why did you tell me that? I don't want that.
Oh, okay.
So that was awesome. Like a good push.
Yeah.
God was doing a little pushback. So the one that I loved, the 2 that I loved were how much is enough? That was pretty impactful. And then also like where should I live?
Yeah.
Which I think I'm excited to have that conversation.
Okay.
Just like knowing my generation, and like sometimes I think I'm like above my generation, and then I'm like, oh wait, I'm exactly.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean.
I'm like, oh, that doesn't apply to me. That's not me. That's not who I am. And then it's like, yeah, it is.
That's so funny, because it's very millennial to think that you are like, we've arrived and we're better than everybody, because we've just sort of have elevated thinking, and then you realize like, no, I'm just like
maybe
everybody
it's just
else.
an everyone thing.
I think so.
We just think we're better than who we actually are.
One day, probably so,
but not quite. Yes. So those 2 were the most.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So then, I mean, you just for the sake of time, just in case we really just want to dig in and spend all of our time on this one, we don't have to, but just in case, you said the where should I live? What really stood out to you? Like, okay, then let's just go right to it.
Yeah. So I think first I'll talk about the episode, and then I'll talk about why it resonated so well with me.
Okay.
I think, especially for those who are getting right out of college or graduating, this is so important, because like they're given the world. Like I'm not saying that they're given the world, but there's so many open doors. There's so many open doors.
Yeah.
So like some of them range from one part of the country to the other. Some people are going abroad, and that is awesome. But that decision could be so like daunting. I think having a solid foundation to make those decisions are so important. And when we have Jesus, I think like obviously it's still going to be hard, but there's a level of like just another level of discernment that we get to have. And so I think that was really awesome. Just like I know I wasn't quite there when I graduated of like, this is where God wants me. But knowing that is very much who he is, of like, okay, you're given these opportunities, you don't have to choose everything by yourself. He wants us to choose, and he wants us to be able to make decisions, but he's not throwing us out into the wolves, just wanting us to make. And so some like highlighting parts is like taking, like understanding that where we live is going to mold who we're going to be is so important. And it's like, especially as someone who chose a major city like Chicago, it molds you into like a person or a certain type of person than if you lived somewhere like in like suburban Minnesota. Like that's very different. So like where you choose to live will mold you to become a certain type of person. And so understanding what kind of person you want to be, understanding, okay, what kind of values do I have, and how is this environment that I'm going to put myself into or choose? Because God gives us choices out of his abundant love. Thank you so much. It's like, thanks for the decisions, God. I wish you could just make them for me, but it's fine.
Oh man, yes.
But yeah, just asking those questions of like, okay, what kind of person do I want to be, and what environment is going to foster that the best. I think that was So that was a question that I was like, man, like that's. I wish I had asked myself that question.
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely not. I mean, that's certainly not something I took into account when I moved to Minnesota. Like, I moved here because there was a grad program that I was going to jump into, and because my girlfriend at the time lived much closer to this school than where I was before. And like, those were my deciding factors. It had nothing to do with like, okay, well, what's the spiritual climate in Mankato? Like, where's the best church for me to get plugged into? What are the big topics of conversation that really matter to this city that are going to shape and mold who I am? Where are the places that I need to be prepared to be open to being transformed? And where are the places where I need to thoughtfully say, I'm gonna like this is where I need to put on the full armor of God and be prepared for difficult things, to be a light, not just like somebody who's being molded, but somebody who is a part of molding what is happening in this place. And you know, that, like, to me, that has a lot to do with the idea of shalom. And I think we talked about that. I think Erica and I talked about the concept of shalom, and like this whole, like, what does it look like to seek the goodness of the city? Because like, as that city prospers and experiences the goodness of God, like, you experience it as a part of that city. And man, that was not even remotely close in my mind when I was picking whether or not I should actually go to this grad program over a different one.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. And now we know. It's like, okay, it's over, but now we know.
Yes. And maybe those are not always the deciding factors of whether or not you go to a place, but you at least walk in informed and ready to say, okay, what does it look like? Yes, totally. So I love that point. I'm glad that stood out to you.
Yeah. So number 1, where you live will shape who you become. And then 2, I didn't want to do this, but choosing community over convenience, and choosing to stick out hardships and do it with people who may be those hardships, than picking something like, okay, fine, I'm just going to move back in with my parents. Which is what I wanted to do. Before my mom was like, no. You will be in community and you will like it.
There you go. You got to go grow up.
Yeah. But I think that's a really, and it doesn't necessarily have to just be like hardships in community, but just choosing community out of our own convenience. And I think this could also apply to rooming and to who should I live with and things like that. And so honestly, so many of these questions and so many of these topics are so interchangeable, and you could I just loved this series because
awesome.
It wasn't just like what you see on paper, but it genuinely goes in a little bit deeper and deeper and deeper, and then you're like, please stop. Oh my goodness.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm pretty convinced that each of these questions is like, I felt like it didn't take long. It didn't take very long into each episode to say the question that we have posed here is not actually the important question. The important question is a layer deeper than this, and typically it's somewhere related to do I trust Jesus, and am I fully submitted to his lordship in my life? Like, it feels like that's really what so many of these questions boil down to, is do I trust Jesus enough to follow him completely? And honestly, for most of us, the answer is shoot, maybe not as much as I thought.
Or maybe not in this part of my life.
Yeah,
like,
yes,
God, you
exactly.
Can have this other area. You can play with that, but this
feels like it's off limits, or I've never considered this as part of your lordship in my life. And that can be tough when you're like, oh, dang, I thought I was kind of figuring this out, and maybe now I need to rethink the whole thing. Yeah.
And even with this question, wrestling about like remote work, and I think because remote work is such a huge thing now, I think it could be molded into this question, especially for like fresh grads of like, okay, where am I going to live, and how am I going to be so intentional with community when I am working remotely and I have picked this place to live in? And so just like molding all of those questions and really submitting them to God and being like, okay, God, you need to be smack dab in the middle of all of these. Like where I'm going to live isn't going to impact what I'm going to do after my remote job, which is going to heavily mold the type of person who I'm going to be. And so it's just so many different facets to the one question. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as you already mentioned, where you live has so many branching influences that it does touch the work that you do, the people that you're connected with, the church that you go to. And so many of the questions that we touched on are impacted by where you live in one way or another. So, Selah, are you okay jumping? You said you also had a lot of, you had some feelings and thoughts about the how much is enough question. Do you feel okay to jump over to that? I'd love to hear, I'd love to hear a bit about what came up for you from Shung as she was with us again.
Yeah. How much is enough was quite brutal to my
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's a tough one for sure.
I think just the word of enough immediately is like, okay, like I know this is probably going to is going to hit like a sin or like something that I haven't given to God. Of like, okay, what is enough? Jesus, you're enough. But like there's always like what you said is like, God, like I don't know if I want you to touch this part of my life yet. But just fully, I think stewardship is the number one like word that comes out of the end of this episode was stewardship, and obedience and full trust in the Lord. And those are a lot of words, not just one, but stewardship, I think, like God is going to give us like an abundance of resources and love and people, and it's up for us to steward it the way that he desires.
Yeah.
And that's going to be what's enough. And that's what's going to make that number enough.
Yes.
And only that is going to make it enough. And so I think that was such a, like, it was like, what's the word? It was just comforting to know at the end that, like, okay, Selah, the number is never going to be right if you're just looking at the number, because numbers can just go on. But if I'm looking back here and saying, okay, who gave me that? How does he want me to steward it? Who are the people around me who I can be serving with it, or like organizations that I could be supporting with it? How can I just walk faithfully in what God has given me right now? It's going to be more than we can ask or imagine. And that's very comforting. I think it should be really comforting, knowing that like God is the giver of all good things, and when he gives us those good things, he's going to tell us how to steward it. And so just lock into the Lord and understand, like, okay, he knows what to do with this, because he's the one that's given it to me. And that was so comforting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's that again, this is a question that it felt like there was a layer deeper question that we needed to ask, really, that then eventually helps us answer the question, how much is enough? And it's really, I think the question, at least for me, that stood out, and I think you're voicing something very similar, is the question is not how much is enough, but it's what can I do with what I have? Like, what is it that I have now? Because this is what God has given to me. And so then how do I use this to accomplish the purposes that God has placed before me? And that includes feeding myself and my family, if I have a family, and, but like, that he has given to us so that we can thrive individually, but we might need to redefine what thriving means, maybe, because some of us might think, fill in the blank thing is thriving, when that's like, actually, that's extravagance. And that's something that Shung talked about. Like, so often extravagance in the Bible is pointed towards worship, that it is extravagant giving, so that we can show our extravagant worship of this huge, abundant giver of all things, and that we use what we have for what we need, and we give away the extra that God has given to us, as I think the term that Shung uses is God's portfolio managers, which I thought
I loved that.
I thought I was thinking about that. That is a crazy term to me, because for so many of us, when it comes to our finances, especially like, retirement accounts and things like that, we pay other people to manage, to be our portfolio managers, to make sure that we are investing and doing things the way that we should. And God has chosen us. He's chosen us, the ones who typically push that off on other people. He's chosen us to be his portfolio managers. Like the owner of all things has said, here are the resources that I have. I want you to make sure that these get used appropriately, including for yourself, but for other people. And it's like, holy smokes, like that is, and he has diversified his portfolio across many different people. But even so, what is the number that he has given to me, and what does it look like to use that for his purposes? And that is, it's a question that gets right into your heart, digs right into your heart, because we are being discipled in how to spend money. And so are we being discipled by what the world is teaching us about how to use money, or are we being discipled by what God is teaching us through his word and the examples of other people who use it well? So that was a huge question for sure.
I think she tackled it so well, though.
Yeah,
so well, and just like honoring God with that knowledge of like, like everything that she was saying was just like, man, like, God is so trusting of us, one, and two, he's so graceful in all things, and so I just love that. I just loved it. But I think also the topic of contentment that was talked about just like being still and like where you are and like what God has given you is just so important. Especially of the day of like striving for more. Just really being where you're at and being in a place of gratitude of what we have at this point is just so important. And I think is going to bring us more peace than striving for more, which I think being goal oriented is never bad. I think that's awesome. And I think some people worship, that's how they can worship the Lord, is by like, okay, like I have all this drive and like I can make things and I'm an entrepreneur. Striving is not a bad thing, but when the goal is to have more and to be like more, like to have more, to gain more, and it's never going to bring us peace, but understanding that like, okay, how can I honor you, God, with this? How can I satisfy you, and how can I delight in you? By giving you these things and by stewarding it well. I know right now I am learning that right now. I'm using a good budgeter, and I'm like, okay, God, like there's this much money left over. Is there something that you want me to do with it? Is there someone you want me to bless with it? Do you just want it to sit there? Like, okay, that's fine. But really, like our main focus being like, okay, Jesus, how, like, guide me with this? How do I steward this for your will? And not my anxiety or not my fear and not my control, because that's never going to produce fruit. So love.
Oh man, contentment, what a thing to be in pursuit of. And I think you know, like you said, as far as like setting goals and like being in pursuit of things, I mean, you know, in the parable of the talents, the people who were praised by the owner were the people that put stuff to work and made there was more that came in. So they were in pursuit of more than what they had, but it was all still under the mindset that this doesn't belong to me. And I think that's great. And what you were saying about your budgeting and money left over, one thing I'll say, nobody has to do this, but one of the things that my wife and I has found very helpful is that we have our like set aside, this is how much we're giving every month. And then we also have kind of like this giving slush fund that goes with it. Like money is allocated to these particular places. And then we have one sort of bonus fund that's just, we call it our one-time giving, so that it's like, okay, we don't know where this is going right now. For now, it's just going to sit here in this line item. And then when you get those random requests, like somebody at church is going on a missions trip or something, and they ask for support, you're like, yeah, I've got $50 just sitting here unaccounted for, or it's accounted for, but it just isn't earmarked for anything. Here you go. It makes it so that the random requests that people give, it makes it so that the number of times you have to say no to somebody shrinks when they ask you for a gift
kingdom.
Exactly.
To expand the kingdom.
Yes. And so that's one of the things that has been really helpful for us, is allotting somewhere in our giving. Our giving is just this one time, all right, we'll see what happens. When somebody asks, we're prepared to say yes, at least to some degree. And that we found that very helpful. So take it for what it's worth. But
I might steal it.
Yeah. And, maybe it's not something that happens with the entirety of your money that's left over, but maybe there's a portion of it that just gets slotted right there. And you're like, okay, there we go. I've got something. And this just every month there's a little bit that goes into that. So I'm ready to say yes. Yeah. So
awesome.
Yeah. Wow. Selah. Yeah, that's great. Go ahead. Anybody, go ahead. Use it. I love your thoughtfulness on these topics, and we could keep going on. I think probably every one of these questions, I would love to hear your input on it. Maybe you could record a short reel or two and throw them up on Instagram and tag us in it or something like that, if there's other episodes you have thoughts on. But by way of kind of moving us towards wrapping up our conversation here, as you think about big questions, you think about, I know I never want to end these things, but as you think about big questions and your fellow alumni, Is there a final like word of advice that you would give to your fellow alumni in this first year of life after graduation as they're asking big questions about this season?
Yeah. I think it's an advice and an encouragement all in one, which is you're already in the hands of Jesus. And that is the answer. Like, you already have it. It's there. Like, woo, you've won. You're already in the hands of Jesus. And because you're already in the hands of Jesus, all you have to do is just keep your eyes on him and everything. Place him in the middle of every question. And when we place him in the middle of every question, things will fall into place because we are under his will and under his guidance. And so that gives me a lot of comfort, and I pray that gives them a lot of comfort. That yes, we're being called to make a lot of scary, hard decisions, like all at once, but we're not doing it alone. We are held by the maker of the universe, the maker of the heavens and earth, and it's the safest place, and it's the best position that we can be in. And it's just the best place that we could be in. And so understanding that because we are held by Jesus, the decisions that we make don't have to be by ourselves. And as long as we're keeping him in the focal point of our life, we are able to make these decisions. And so there's no fear. There's no fear that we need to have. So.
Alumni, so many great questions that we got to chat about in this big question series. If you haven't had a chance to look at them, I encourage you, go back, give them a look. If there was something that piqued your interest from this conversation with Selah, go find that episode. I will link the ones that we talked about specifically in the show notes. Otherwise, we've got a whole array of topics that we discussed in this series. Go give them a look and see if there's something that will be of encouragement to you. Selah, thanks again for joining us for this conversation. I always love getting to hang out together. And alumni, come back next week as we kick off a brand new series. We're talking about 6 ways to engage with Scripture after graduation. As you're experiencing new rhythms of life, are there ways that you can incorporate God's Word as you figure out what this new season looks like? Come on back. It's going to be a great series. It starts next week. Until then, share this episode with somebody who needs to hear it, and I will see you in the after, alumni. Thanks for listening to After 4. This podcast is brought to you by the InterVarsity Alumni Relations Team, hosted and produced by John Steele, production assistance by Mike Santera, edited by Caleb Leppert, and our After 4 theme music was written and performed by John Steele.